Thank you. I'm the recently retired moderator back tonight because our regular moderator is on bed rest right now, waiting a child. So, again, my name is Tim Scott, and I'd like to begin by doing the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, a couple of matters of detail at the beginning. We'd like to see if you'll dispense with reading of the checklist. Is there a motion to that effect? Moved. Second. Second, Peter. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. The second is to dispense with the reading of the warrant in advance because we'll read each item in order. So is a motion to that effect? Moved. Second? Moved. Second. All those in favor? Any discussion? Excuse me. Hearing none, that's approved. Okay, we will begin with Article 1. See if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,728,255 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for school district officials and agents, and for the payment of the statutory obligations of the district, with $31,800 offsetting this amount from various grants. This article does not include any appropriations voted in other warrant articles. It is recommended by the school board. Is there a motion to bring Article 1 to the table?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Second, Peter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Article 2. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 to be added to the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund, previously established for this purpose in 2010, recommended by the school board 3-0. Is there a motion to bring Article 2 to the table? So moved. Moved by Peter. Second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Article is carried. Article 3. And I understand that there's going to be recommendations by the school board to vote this one down. This is to see if the school board will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the expendable general trust fund, known as School Building Maintenance Fund, established for that purpose in 1996. The school board did bring it forward, but it has been recommended to zero that out because it's not needed. So is there a motion to that effect? Motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there any discussion?
So, I mean, I gotta say before, like, I'm making the recommendation that we vote it down. I don't know that's actually coming from the school board yet, because the school board did kind of recommend it, so I don't know whether, if you guys...
No, I agree. Yeah.
So is it agreed that...
Yes, we agreed to say no.
We're recommending that you vote it down anyway, but...
All right, so, any, Peter?
Just a procedural question, Tim. Is it better to zero this out or to vote the article down? It's probably better to vote the article down.
Just vote the article down.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. If you don't think you need the money.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor of voting the article down, please signify by saying aye.
Wait a minute.
Should we say that we don't want to just read it?
I think the article's asking for the money, so if you vote, we're voting to approve it, all those in favor would be aye. If you're opposed, then you would say no.
Right, you're right. Rusty. All those in favor of the article staying as it is, please say aye. All those in favor of voting the article down, please say nay.
Nay.
It is passed. Voted down.
Does not pass.
Not passed.
Should not pass.
Okay. Article 4. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the capital reserve fund known as special education, previously established for this purpose, recommended by the school board. Unanimous. Is there a motion to bring Article 4 forward? Move second? Move second. Thank you. Any discussion? Peter?
What's the balance in that fund?
The balance is 144,472. It's been recommended to us that we bring it up to 200,000, so that's what we're trying to do.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Article is passed. Article 5. See if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the capital reserve fund known as school buses previously established for this purpose. Again, is recommended by the school board. A motion to bring Article 5 forward? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor for Article 5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Article is passed. Article 6, which you heard about a little while ago, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to engage professional services to develop a master plan for the school building. I gather that is. This is recommended by the school board. Is there a motion to bring Article 6 to the table? Moved. Second. Any discussion? Peter?
Is there any sense or vision from the school board at this point about how that planning process would take place? Is this a community-wide process? Is it an internal process?
Jerry can speak to that. He's on the subcommittee for that.
Yeah, Jim actually speaks to it better, but I'll give it a try. It's just within the school district. So we're hoping that we can coordinate that later on with the planning board and the town. I was supposed to have further discussions with the selectmen about kind of doing that, kind of expanding out, the feasibility master plan for all of our properties. But so this, we're hoping that fits nicely into that. But for now, it's basically to interview the school board members, staff members, maybe some parents and community members about how we use the space, if there's room to expand the space and what that expansion might be able to be used for.
Is that covered, Jim?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think we specifically talked about some of those community listening posts type of things that whether it dovetails with something that's already going to be scheduled or we set up something, but we specifically spoke to involve the community.
And one of the things that we were adamant about is that we want the campus, right now we're ADA compliant, and any expansion of the campus, we want to remain ADA compliant. Is one of our number one goals from that. So that's the caveat over everything that we'll be looking at anyway.
Yes.
So right now, there's no plan to coordinate with the rest of the town, but there is a hope that you would at some point. Is that where we're at with commitments?
Yes,
Okay.
for the most part. I mean, so it's it's kind of, we think it's time. I've talked with the selectmen about this. They kind of agree too about it. It's time for us to really take a look at the properties that we have and how can they be used for the future. So, and also coordinate funding for those things as well, so that we don't impact the tax rate too severely.
Other questions? Yes.
Does the projected enrollment indicate that there's a need for expansion?
Well, it's not necessarily expansion that we're looking at, but it's really how do we utilize the facilities that we have to our best ability. So we may not be expanding the school, but we do own a basement, we own the top floor, we own other areas. So we want to look at how can we best utilize the whole building for whatever purpose we may want to.
So it's, so it's not just, so the things that we're looking at are, number one in my mind is preschool. But we're also looking at storage space, for instance, for equipment to maintain the building that we've never really had, that will make maintaining the building much easier. We don't have any real staff meeting places permanent, so that's always jockeying around from year to year. It's, we've always talked about how do we use the upstairs, how can we use the basement, but we don't have real numbers for there, so that's the kind of thing that we'll be looking at anyway.
Jeff?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about how the space is utilized right now? Let's say you have to take a child out to do a one-on-one. Do we have room for that currently, or how are we using that
As I
space?
think you and many of the board members know, there are days where we have multiple service providers in the building where the children are in the hallway. They're over here in the Whitney Center, sometimes outside in the pavilion. So depending on the day and the number of student needs we have, there's not enough small pull-out space for everybody to have an optimal environment to do that.
Yes, come back.
My last question. So, how did you come up with the $15,000? Do we have a bid? Do we have an idea of what that would entail, spending that money? Are we looking at that being an installment of many more, or is that a finite project? I fit 5 questions in there, but.
Yeah, you did. We started out, I think, I called HEB engineers to see what they would recommend, you know, where this would fall. And they said definitely want to speak to architectural firms. We tried to call David Warren, who was worked on this project and worked on the high school. He was retiring. We called, there was another architect that I called, the town of Conway, Elba Architects over in Lincoln, and they weren't very responsive. And then Mr. Couture is a local architect that was very responsive, and I thought he answered. We met with the facilities committee with him, and he gave us a proposal, and that's how we came up with it. So it wasn't a formal process, but it was a competitive process.
And his opening estimate for the work was just under $10,000, and so the board discussed it, and we thought that, you know, we might need up to $5,000. It might need more than that, but at least it's a good start. And we need to engineer plans or to do anything further. So that's why we were asking for it.
Are there other questions? Yes.
Do you folks have a timeline in mind, or have you not gotten that far, or as far as looking into all the different things you're talking about?
Well, it really kind of depends where it kind of goes to and what kind of information comes our way, but we're hoping to have, you know, discussions to the point where if this thing's needed to add to the budget for next year. So we're thinking like September, October to start putting together some pretty solid information anyway. And the idea is that, you know, once we start this process, we'll probably have listening posts to, you know, bring ideas to the public and have discussions. You know, probably, you know, unfortunately, they tend to have to happen in August or September when people aren't necessarily around in August. But it's how our budget process works. So that's what we'll be looking to do anyway.
Are there other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 6, please just signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, article is passed. Article 7, to see if the school district will vote to establish a cooperative school district planning committee in accordance with RSA 195:18, comprised of 3 members. At least one shall be a member of the Jackson School Board, appointed by the district moderator, school district moderator. This is recommended by the school board. Is there a motion to bring Article 7 forward? Moved. Second. Discussion. Any discussion on Article 7?
Can you just explain a little bit more about what that committee's charge will be?
I was going to do that, but I was waiting for a question.
I figured I
I didn't know if everybody knew that.
Toss the line out.
Based on the contract with the school coming to a close in a few years, we have to establish a board and vote on this as a community for us to even discuss what our options are going to be. So we need to have this in place in time. So this is the time to do it. The other sending towns, I believe Conway is actually doing it as well. Voting on it, so go ahead.
Moderator. So all of the towns that are currently within the tuition agreement, including Conway as the receiving district right now, have this article on their warrant. Bartlett voted it in the other night. You folks are next. Tuesday night will be another 4, districts that will do that. So it really formalizes that process as far as, because I would imagine it'll break into subcommittees. You'll have a financial subcommittee, you'll have a programming subcommittee, you'll have a governance subcommittee. So in order to begin formalizing those conversations, kind of have to figure out who's in, who's out, at least for conversational purposes.
Answer your question?
So the,
Yeah, I was hoping, kind of, for everybody else too.
so the process on that anyway would be that, so that committee will be making recommendations in probably 2 years from now, if it passes, in all the towns, making recommendations to the different school boards about whether to consider a co-op or not. The added benefit of it is that it'll do a lot of legwork for whatever the contract's going to be, whether it's a co-op or area agreement or individual contracts. That committee will be doing a lot of the legwork on what that contract will look like, regardless of whether we form a co-op or not. So it'll cover a lot of different areas for that anyway.
Sarah?
So what you just said, does that mean if we go to a co-op and you're doing all this labor, you might say like in years past, you might option out to tuition somewhere else rather than go to Conway?
Yep. All that'll be explored.
Right.
And there'll be a lot of community involvement with that, a lot of forums, so that everybody in town has the opportunity to come and learn about it.
Yes.
Just a clarification, so all that will be explored, but not through this specific committee, right?
Correct.
Meaning this is meant for transparency purposes, to let folks know that we're going to the table with any other sending town that approve it, as well as the Conway School District, which I think approved it on Monday. The Conway School District, did they approve it?
They're an SB2 town.
Oh, they're SB2.
So
okay.
they won't vote on it until April.
Oh, until April. But, so that this particular one is to let people know that we would have a 3-person committee that's coming together to look at the options for how to form a cooperative school district, so that we can come back to voters and say, this is what it would look like. You can vote for it or not. But that would be separate from the process of looking at the other options. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Is there any other discussion or questions on this article? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The article is passed. Article 8, to transact any other business that may legally come before this building. Anything else? Oh, yes, Sarah.
Yes, I've said it, I think, for a couple of years now, and I understand that there are certain ways you have to put in your enrollment or through the book that we get. But I think it's a little, I'm of the opinion, I would like to see when it says total K through 6, if we have students of teachers coming to the district or to Jackson Grammar School, I would like to have a asterisk maybe down on the bottom if we, have to keep the 43 for state purposes or whatever. But we have 2 students that are here because their teachers teach here, and we have 1 student that's tuition. So in actuality, to my thought, the enrollment is 43, but 40 of the students live here in Jackson and are taxpayers' children, whereas the other 3 students are not. And I think that should be differentiated so we could have the number to know how many students are actually Jackson students and how many come through other means. And I think it would be appropriate also to put in the amount that the tuition students are paying. People don't have an idea what that amount of dollars is. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Peter?
I've got to say something. Probably not. I look back 4 years ago, I expressed some concern, even though it's less than 1% of the budget, about the lunch program, and this is not a reflection on lunch.
Okay, Peter.
Staff, it's not staff. But at that time, we were running like a 20% deficit on the lunch program. Now we're running a 40% deficit on the lunch program. It's only $25,000 out of the budget, but I would encourage the board and the staff to think creatively about how we can provide lunch to the students here without kind of breaking the bank. We're not even covering the cost of food. Again, it's a small item, but if we can figure out and think creatively about how we might be able to do it differently, I think it would sit well with one person in the audience. So, thank you.
Peter? Anybody else? Hearing none?
Sorry. Just looking at the revenue for the kindergarten aid, having a 0 in there, that's because you don't know who's playing Keno, basically.
Mr. Moderator, so once upon a time, when they sold Keno in the state of New Hampshire, that was designated specifically for kindergarten aid. So the first year that it went into play, the number of students that you had going into kindergarten, you got $1,100 per student. So that money said, okay, all the kindergarten students in the state of New Hampshire are getting $1,100. Well, then the state of New Hampshire decided, we're going to change that. And what has happened is they've rolled it into the state adequacy pool of money. So Keno still, depending upon how you interpret it, does go to support kindergarten, but not equitably across the state. So some towns are getting a little bit more for their kindergarten students through adequacy. And then other towns, like yourself, are getting nothing to support.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So Keno is good for entertainment value, and if you choose to buy a ticket, just know that it's for entertainment and not necessarily for your kindergarten.
Thanks.
Thank you for that elimination. Are there any other questions or comments for this meeting? Okay, I would entertain a motion to dissolve this meeting.
So I'd like to just say one thing. I would like to call attention and thank our newest financial person in the office who helped come in the last hour and put all this together for us, for all the towns. She's done an exceptional job. She's been there through all of our questions, as well as learning on the fly, I'm sure, through everything. So Lily, would you get up and thank you for all your work.
Thank you very much.
And then I'd like to formally thank Jessica for her years of service here in a public forum and make her blush. So we miss you terribly. Whenever you're ready to come back, you're welcome.
On that note, we'll dissolve the meeting. Motion, please. Motion. Second. All those in favor?